So hello everyone, in this video we'll be discussing about DOM manipulation in JavaScript. So it is very easy to manipulate the DOM. For manipulating in my sense is adding new elements, removing elements, or toggling between the elements. So you can explicitly create new element in an HTML document using the document.createElement method. This method creates a new element but it doesn't add it to the DOM. You'll have to do that in a separate step as shown in the following example. You can see we have this div which is having this ID main. We also have this h1 which is having this ID title and a paragraph which is having this ID hint. Now I want to create a new div tag or a new div element. So that for that I'll be using document.createElement, and this create element method will allow us to create any element that we want to add in a DOM. So this create element and this div will create an element and store that inside this variable new div. Now we can also create the content that we want to add inside this div tag. So for that I'll be using this create text node, which is a method that create some text data or textual data in a div or in a element. So now you can see we are writing this hi, how are you doing? Then we are appending this data which we created just now, this text data, in a new div by using this new div.append child method. This append child method actually appends something inside a parent container. So if you want to append something, whether it be any element or it can be any textual data that you want to include in that container, that you can do easily with this append child method. Now you can see we applied this method on this new div element which we created, and we added this method append child, and after that we added the content inside that which we created here. Now we have this current div variable which we grabbed from this main tag or this main div. We grabbed the ID of this main div, and then we stored that uh, current div variable in here. So this element is stored in here in this current div variable. Now for attaching this or for adding something inside this div element or this ID main element, we are using document.body.append child. So this append child again we are using to implement or to append this newly created element inside this current div. So for that I use this append child method, and the content that I want to include or append, that is here this new div or this new element that I want to append, and then I specified the parent container in which I want to append this element. So current div is the element that in which we want to append this element or append this newly created element. So we are using a lot of methods here: create element for creating elements, create text node for creating text content inside this element, and append child for appending something in a parent. And then same thing we're using for this newly created div, and we are appending that inside of this current div which we grabbed here. The append child method adds the new element at the end of any other children of a specified parent node. So if we specify a parent node, let's say this current div, so this current div is having two children. One is this h1, the second one is this p. So this newly created div will be added at the end of this container. So at the end means all the children after the or after all the children it will be added, so at the end of the main container. So however, if you want to add the new element at the beginning of any other children, you can use the insert before method. But if you want to add this newly created div or any element at the beginning of at the beginning of other children in the container, then you will be using insert before. So this newly created div will not come at the end in the children or in this container, but at the start, which will be the starting element if you use this method insert before. So similarly, we can use insert before, just like we did that append child here. We're using insert before instead of that. So that is only the change. So you can see that. So this will be added at the start, means before this heading 1. If you use append child, then it will come at the end after other children. You can also get or set the contents of the HTML elements easily with the help of inner HTML property. We have seen that earlier. And this property sets or gets the HTML markup contained within the element. It implies content between its opening and closing tags. So if we see that, if you see this inner HTML, we are just storing that inner HTML in a content. For this get element by ID, this main variable or this main element, and we are storing that in a variable contents. The inner content will be actually alerted out. So the inner content is this heading 1 and the content, and this p tag and the content. So that will be logged out here. After that, it is actually setting a new content inside this main div. So this will be the newly inserted element. So this p tag will be there now if we add this inner HTML and assign a new value to it. So we have seen this property earlier, that we can also add any tag in here or any normal text content here. That's up to us. So we are setting a new inner HTML container inside or the children for this element. So basically it is that. So inner HTML can be used to get the contents of all the HTML children or elements inside a container, or we can set the HTML elements inside that particular container. So as you can see how easily you can insert new elements into DOM using the inner HTML property. But there is one problem. The inner HTML property replaces all existing content of an element. So if we add this one inner HTML in main div, which is this main div, so the previous data which is this heading and this paragraph will be lost if we add this newly created element inside inner HTML. So basically that is the problem. So if you want to insert the HTML into the document without replacing the existing contents of an HTML element of an element, you can use the insert adjacent HTML. So this is another method to add content inside an HTML element. This method accepts two parameters: the position in which they insert, in which to insert the HTML text to insert. The position must be one of the following values: before begin, after begin, before end, and after end. This method is supported in all major browsers. So basically let me show you what is before begin. So this is before begin. If you specify the position before begin, so the element will be added before this container. So before starting this container, it will be added. If I specify after begin, so it will add after the element is started. After that, it will be the first element to be added. If we add before end, so it will be the last element in the children. If we add after end, so it will be the adjacent element after this main tag or this main container. So basically that we are doing with this insert adjacent HTML element. You can see we have grabbed this main div with the help of get element by ID. We have specified this main ID here. Now main div is an element in which we can use this insert adjacent HTML method, and we can specify any position where we want to include the HTML that we want to add. Here you can see we are adding before begin. So this content, this is a paragraph 1. This will be added here if we execute this program. So this tag will be added before this main HTML element. Similarly, we have this after begin. So this will add here, this paragraph. Before end, this will add here at the end, and after end will add the element or the any kind of HTML document or a text content after finishing the main container. So after the end, after the adjacent element, so after this one. So there are 4 positions we can use. Also we have this append child and insert before, that we can also use instead of after begin and before end. but it is the one method that applies to all four positions that where we want to add the element. So this is basically the case with this insert adjacent HTML. Similarly, you can use the remove child method to remove a child node from the DOM. This method also returns the removed node. Here's an example. You can remove any HTML node if you want to remove that. So let's say we have a parent element and we are storing the parent element by get element by ID, and we are specifying the ID. This is the parent element, parent container. Now we are grabbing the child element that we want to remove by using get element by ID, which is this hint. So we have specified this paragraph ID. Now we are storing that in here, and on the parent element we are using this remove child method, and inside that we are specifying the element that we want to remove. So basically you just need to add this remove child method on a parent element, and you have to specify the children element that you want to remove, then that will be removed by this method. It is also possible to remove the child without exactly knowing the parent element. If you don't want to get the element or the parent element, so that also you can do. Simply find the child element and use the parent node property to find its parent element. This property returns the parent of the specified node in the DOM tree. Let's see an example. So now in this case, I'm not grabbing this main container or this main ID container. I'm just grabbing the element that I want to remove, this one, this hint element, child element, and on that child element I'm using a parent node property, and after that we are using remove child. So earlier we were using this remove child on a parent element directly, but in this case we are not getting the parent element. Instead we are using this parent node property, which allows us to give the parent element for this children element. So this will give you the parent element, this line, and after that we are using remove child on that parent element to remove this child element that we want to remove. So basically this is the case how we can remove existing element from a DOM. You can also replace an element in HTML DOM with another using the replace child. So it is for replacing the element. So that will be replaced with a new updated elements. This method accepts two parameters, the node to insert and the node to be replaced. It has a syntax like parent node dot replace child. We are using it on a parent node, and then we are using replace child, the new child that we want to insert, and the old child which needs to be replaced. Let's see that. So let's say we have this parent element, this main, we have grabbed it, and the old paragraph that I want to replace, this one, this hint, and the new paragraph I created it with this create element. We know this method earlier we saw in the slide, and then we are setting the text content inside this p. This is a new paragraph, we are setting that, and now we are appending this newly created content inside this paragraph by append child. Now we are replacing the previous children or this previous element, which is this paragraph, with a newly created paragraph. So now we are using parent element, this one we grabbed here, main element or main div, and on that we are using this replace child method, and inside that we specified the newly created paragraph, which is this one. Inside that we have this content, and then we are specifying the old paragraph which we grabbed here or we collected here with the ID hint. So that will be replaced with this newly created paragraphs. So this will be here now. So this is the thing that how you can replace existing elements. So this is the end of the slide. I hope you got something in this lesson. In the next video we'll be doing all of these things practically. So let's meet in the next video. Thank you for watching.